in the distant star system of Xylar 9. Captain Rylan Voss floated silently among the debris of a destroyed alien cruiser. The cold vacuum of space stretched endlessly around him, pierced only by the faint glimmer of distant stars. Inside his helmet, his breath echoed loudly, mingling with the low hum of his exosuit. Every movement had to be precise. A single mistake meant instant death. Rylan's mission was simple in words but impossible in reality. Rescue the alien Princess Lyra from the clutches of the warlord Keldrak. No one had dared enter this sector before. The warlord's name alone made seasoned soldiers shiver. Ports warned of lethal energy traps, ambush drones, and creatures bred for war. Yet Rylan did not hesitate. He had made a promise and he never broke promises. As he approached the cruiser, the energy shields flickered weakly, like a dying heartbeat. He could see the faint outline of the princess inside, her shimmering form trapped behind layers of force fields. Rylan's hands shook slightly as he prepared his plasma cutter. The mission demanded precision, timing, and courage, but mostly courage. Then the first warning came. A blinding surge of energy exploded from the cruiser. It hit Rylan square in the chest, sending sparks flying across his exosuit. Alarms blared inside his helmet. Pain lanced through his arms, an unbearable, burning agony. He looked down. Both of his arms were gone, vaporized by the energy beam in an instant. Rylan spiraled backward into the darkness of space. He could feel his strength fading, consciousness slipping. Panic threatened to take over, but something inside him refused. A voice, deep and strange, echoed through his mind. It was not Lyra's, it was not human. "We're not done yet." Rylan tried to respond, but no words came. Somehow, the voice filled him with energy, warmth, and purpose. Against all odds, he activated the last reserve boosters in his exosuit. Slowly, painfully, he approached the chamber where Lyra was held. The princess's eyes widened as she saw him floating. Armless, yet alive. Her breath caught in her throat. "Rylan, you can't do this. You've lost your arms," she shouted. But Rylan ignored the fear in her voice. He focused on the strange energy coursing through him. The voice from before guided his movements. He could feel the flow of the ship's energy. It's like a thread connecting him to every system, with a surge of willpower. Rylan reached out not with hands, but with something else he did not understand yet. He lifted the princess into his protective field, moving them both toward the exit. The ship trembled violently, alarms screaming as Keldrak's defense systems activated. A massive drone, glowing red with lethal energy, lunged toward them. Rylan braced for impact, but then something unbelievable happened. Where his arms had been sharp, glowing claws emerged, their tips shimmering blue. They flexed instinctively, strong and precise. He swiped at the drone. Sparks and metal flew everywhere. The claws were fast, deadly, and seemed alive. Lyra gasped, her eyes wide. "What? What is this?" she whispered. Rylan felt a surge of something primal. He realized the claws could interact with the ship's energy systems. He touched the control panels with the tips, and doors opened. Force fields fell, and alarms quieted. He could feel the ship responding to him as if it recognized him as its new master. Then came the final horror. A shadow moved in the distance. A massive figure of Keldrak, draped in dark energy armor, his eyes glowing with rage. The warlord had sensed the transformation, and he was coming. Rylan's heart pounded. He wasn't just trying to escape anymore. He was about to face the enemy who had taken everything from him. Floating beside him, Lyra whispered, "Rylan, what have you become?" Rylan clenched his claws. They felt strong, alive, and terrifying. He didn't have the words to answer her. All he knew was this. He had lost everything, yet gained something far more dangerous. The battle was not over. It had only just begun. dot in that moment, drifting through the wreckage of the alien cruiser. Rylan understood one thing. Clearly, he was no longer human, but something more. Something powerful. And Keldrak would pay the price for underestimating him. The vacuum of space seemed to hold its breath as Rylan prepared to strike back, claws glowing in the dim light. The princess looked at him, hope and fear mingling in her eyes. This rescue mission had turned into a transformation, and the universe would never see him the same way again. And somewhere deep inside, Rylan felt it, the voice, still whispering, still guiding him. Your time has come. Use it wisely. Rylan floated in the wreckage of the alien cruiser, the glow of his dragon-like claws cutting through the darkness. Shadow grew larger, moving with terrifying speed toward him and Princess Lyra. The warlord's energy armor gleamed. Red and the Aravan in the vacuum of space felt heavy with his presence. Rylan could feel the claws twitching, almost as if they had their own mind. Strange warmth spread through him, an unfamiliar power awakening inside. He had survived impossible odds so far, but now the real fight was about to begin. We have to move, Rylan, Lyra shouted, her voice trembling. She floated beside him, her small frame almost insignificant against the vastness of the cruiser. Rylan nodded but didn't move immediately. Something inside him told him to wait, to understand this new power before using it. He focused. The voice in his mind, deep and commanding, spoke again. Touch the energy, feel it, become it. Slowly, Rylan extended his claws toward the glowing panels of the cruiser. Sparks flew as his claws connected with the energy conduits. The ship shuddered. Doors opened automatically, force fields collapsed, and even some of the defense drones froze mid-motion. Rylan realized that he could manipulate energy directly, bending it to his will. Keldrak roared, the sound vibrating through the hull. You dare defy me, human, he shouted. Energy crackled around his fists. He lunged at Rylan, moving faster than thought. But Rylan's claws glowed brighter. Instinctively, he swung them, tearing through Keldrak's armor. Sparks flew, and the warlord staggered back. Lyra gasped. How? How are you doing this? Rylan didn't answer. He was learning on the fly. The claws weren't just weapons. They were extensions of his will, his thoughts, and his survival instinct. Every movement felt natural, almost instinctual. Keldrak recovered and fired a beam of pure energy. Rylan barely dodged, the blast shattering a wall and sending debris hurtling in every direction. For the first time, Rylan realized that he was faster, stronger, and more dangerous than he had ever been. But he also knew something terrifying. Keldrak would not stop. The warlord had fought thousands, and Rylan was just a man. Or at least, he had been. We can't keep fighting in here, Lyra cried. She floated toward a smaller corridor, pointing toward what looked like an escape route. Rylan followed, claws slicing through barriers in their path. Every step was a test, every second a battle. As they moved, Rylan began to notice changes in his body. His senses were sharper. He could feel the energy of the ship, track Keldrak's movements even without looking, and predict attacks before they came. The voice in his head guided him. Control it. Control yourself, or it will consume you. Rylan clenched his claws. He understood now. The claws weren't just tools. They were keys to a new form of power, something beyond human limits. If he learned to master them, he could not only save Lyra, but also challenge Keldrak in ways no one had ever imagined. The escape corridor opened into a vast hangar. Dozens of patrolling drones detected them immediately. Red lights flashed. As the machines prepared to fire, Lyra froze, fear overtaking her. Step back, Rylan shouted, but he didn't step back. Instead, he leaped forward, claws glowing, energy flowing around him like a storm of lightning and fire. In a blur, he slashed through the first wave of drones, their metal frames melting. Under his power, Keldrak appeared at the far end of the hangar, fury burning in his eyes. You think you can defeat me, human? He bellowed. Energy crackled in his hands, forming massive spears of pure force. Rylan felt the claws respond to the threat. They extended slightly, sharper, longer, ready to strike. But he also noticed something. Else the energy inside him wasn't just power, it was connection. He could feel the ship, the princess, and even Keldrak's energy as threads in a vast web. "You can't hide from me, human," Keldrak said, and hurled a massive energy spear. Rylan's claws met it midair. Sparks exploded, shaking the hangar. Force knocked him back. But he held his ground. Lyra watched in awe and fear. She had never seen anything like this. Rylan, once a human with arms, now moved like a creature born from legends, faster and more deadly than any being in the galaxy. The voice whispered again, "Do not fear. You are the storm they cannot stop." Rylan's eyes narrowed. The battle wasn't over, it had just begun. And with every heartbeat, he felt the claws growing stronger, more alive, more powerful. He glanced at Lyra. She was trembling, but he gave her a reassuring nod. He would keep his promise. He would protect her. And one day, Keldrak would pay for underestimating him. The hangar shook violently as Keldrak charged again. Red energy spewing from his hands. Rylan flexed his claws, a faint blue glow, expanding across his body. The air itself seemed to bend around him. He was ready. And in that moment, Rylan realized something terrifying and thrilling. He was no longer human. He was something more, something that could change the fate of Plas. Of the galaxy. And Keldrak had just awakened the monster within him. Rylan's claws glowed brightly in the vast hangar as Keldrak's energy spears cracked the floor around him. Sparks and shards of metal floated in the zero-gravity environment. The warlord advanced with terrifying speed, but Rylan's body had already adapted. His movements were fluid, instinctive, almost predatory. Lyra clutched at his side, her small body trembling. "We can't fight him forever, Rylan," she shouted, her voice barely carrying over the hum of energy and alarms. Rylan nodded without. Looking at her, he could feel Keldrak's power in the air, the intensity, the malice, and the raw force. But he also felt something else. The voice inside him whispering guidance. The claws were more than weapons. They were extensions of his own instincts. He could sense every vibration, every flow of energy. Even predicting Keldrak's next move. With a sudden burst, Rylan kicked off the hangar wall. Blue sparks flared from his claws as he launched toward a smaller exit hatch. Lyra followed, her hands gripping his glowing arms, or what used to be arms. The hatch led to a narrow maintenance tunnel. The perfect place to lose Keldrak for a moment. The tunnel was dark, the walls lined with wires and energy conduits. Rylan's claws lit the way with an eerie blue glow. As they ran, he noticed small signs of life, alien symbols etched into the walls, faint trails of energy. Something or someone had been here before. Suddenly, the tunnel shuddered. The floor split open, revealing a pit full of writhing alien creatures, skeletal, insect-like beings with glowing red eyes. They hissed as they sensed Rylan and Lyra. The creatures were fast, climbing the walls with terrifying speed. Lyra screamed, but Rylan didn't hesitate. His claws extended instinctively, sharp and precise. With a single sweep, he tore through the first wave of creatures. Sparks and alien ichor flew everywhere. He realized that the claws were not only strong, they amplified his strength and speed, letting him move faster than any human ever could. "Keep moving," he shouted, slashing again. The creatures fell back, but more poured out of the shadows. Rylan felt the energy in his body surge. The voice whispered, "Trust it. The power is yours, but control it." He focused. His claws glowed brighter, their energy resonating with the creatures. In a strange moment, he sensed their patterns, their movements, even their thoughts. Using this, he dodged their attacks and struck back with deadly precision. The tunnel became a storm of blue light and alien screams. Finally, they reached a side door that led to an open observation deck. Stars stretched infinitely around them, and below, the remains of Keldrak's cruiser floated like a graveyard. For a brief moment, Lyra gasped at the beauty of the galaxy, but it was shattered when a giant shadow passed overhead. Rylan looked up. A massive alien warship, unlike anything in human fleets, hovered above them. Its hull was jagged, almost organic, glowing with unknown energy. They weren't safe yet. Rylan, what do we do? Lyra asked, fear in her eyes. Rylan didn't answer immediately. He raised his claws, feeling the energy of the stars around him. The voice spoke again. You are more than flesh. Use the universe itself. Become the storm. Rylan closed his eyes. He could feel the flow of energy from the stars, the warship, even the creatures below. With a surge, he connected the energy through his claws, sending a pulse of blue light into the observation deck. The warship shuddered, alien alarms screaming. Lyra stared, astonished. How are you doing this? Rylan opened his eyes. I don't know, but I think I can control it. Before they could celebrate, the deck shook violently. Keldrak had followed them, emerging from the debris in his energy armor. His eyes blazed red, and his hands crackled with raw energy. You cannot escape, Rylan, he roared. Rylan felt a surge of fear and excitement. Oh, the battle wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a test of his new powers, a challenge to become something more than human. He lunged at Keldrak's claws. Flashing energy collided, lighting the deck like a miniature storm. Lyra screamed but held on tight. Sparks flew, and for a moment, everything slowed. Rylan realized that the claws allowed him to push beyond human limits, to anticipate attacks, and strike with precision no human could match. Keldrak laughed, a deep, chilling sound. You are stronger than I thought, but not enough. He fired a massive energy blast. Rylan barely blocked it with his claws, the force pushing him back. The deck cracked beneath him. Rylan looked at Lyra. We have to leave this place. He reached toward a small escape pod, glowing faintly at the edge of the deck. As they ran, he felt the claws growing warmer, responding to danger. They weren't just weapons. They were alive, connected to him and the universe in ways he didn't understand. With a final leap, they dove into the escape pod. Lyra strapped herself in as Rylan slammed the controls. The pod launched into the stars, dodging debris and energy blasts from Keldrak's warship. Inside the pod, Lyra's hands trembled on the console. Rylan, what are you? She asked. Softly, Rylan looked at his glowing claws. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly. Unknown worlds, ancient energy currents, and dangers awaited them. But Rylan felt something for the first time since his transformation. Hope and the thrill of becoming something more, and somewhere in the shadows, Keldrak's rage burned. Hotter than ever. The story was far from over. The universe was vast, and Rylan was only beginning to understand the monster and hero he had become. The escape pod shuddered as it rocketed through the dark expanse of space. Stars streaked past like silver rivers, and Lyra gripped the console, her knuckles white. Rylan sat beside her, claws still glowing faintly blue. His body was tense, every sense alert, ready for danger. They had escaped Keldrak's warship, but they weren't safe. Rylan could feel the energy of the galaxy around him. But the warlord's presence was still heavy in his mind, a shadow he couldn't shake. The voice inside him whispered again, calm but commanding, you are far from your limits. The universe is your ally, but beware. Not all that shines is safe. Lyra glanced at him, eyes wide. What does that mean? She asked. Rylan shook his head. I don't know yet. But we need a place to hide, to rest, and to understand these powers. On the navigation screen, a faint blue dot blinked an unmapped planet, covered in swirling mist and glowing forests. Rylan made the decision quickly. Set a course for that planet. We might find answers there. The pod descended through the thick atmosphere. The sky above was a strange shade of violet, streaked with silver clouds. Below, glowing forests stretched for miles and enormous mountains pierced the mist like jagged teeth. The planet radiated a quiet energy, pulsing through the pod like a heartbeat. As they landed, Rylan felt a surge in his claws. The energy of the planet was resonating with him, almost like it recognized him. He stepped out first, claws flexing. Instinctively, Lyra followed, her eyes scanning the alien landscape with awe and fear. The forest was alive. Trees glowed with faint blue light and the air vibrated softly, as if whispering secrets. Small creatures with translucent wings darted through the air. Rylan could feel the energy of everything, the plants, the air, even the ground beneath. His feet, it feels alive, Lyra whispered. Rylan nodded. It's not just alive, it's conscious. It's testing us. Suddenly, the ground trembled. From the mist emerged a towering creature, at least 3 times Rylan's height. Its skin shimmered with crystalline patterns, and its eyes glowed like molten gold. It moved slowly, almost cautiously, studying them. Rylan stepped forward, claws extended. Stay behind me, he whispered. Lyra obeyed, trembling. The creature's gaze focused on Rylan instead of attacking. It bended the energy around it, forming a faint barrier that made the forest hum with power. The voice inside Rylan's mind spoke again. This is a guardian, a test. Prove your worth or turn back. Rylan's claws began to glow brighter. He didn't understand why, but he knew instinctively that strength alone was not enough. He reached out with his energy, merging it with the energy of the forest. The trees pulsed, and the creature lowered its massive head, sensing his intentions. Lyra gasped, "You're talking to it?" With energy, Rylan nodded slowly. "Yes, I think the planet. It's alive. It can feel us." The creature tilted its head and suddenly roared a sound that shook the ground and sent waves through the forest. But it was not aggression. Instead, a path cleared through the glowing trees, revealing a crystal cave at the foot of the mountains. The guardian stepped aside. Rylan glanced at Lyra. "We follow it. Carefully." Inside the cave, the energy was overwhelming. Crystals of every size jutted from the walls, glowing with a soft, steady light. Rylan could feel the claws resonating strongly. Here, the energy almost singing through his veins. At the center of the cave floated a sphere of pure energy, spinning slowly, glowing with colors he couldn't name. Rylan instinctively reached out. The sphere pulsed and expanded, wrapping around his claws, filling him with a warmth and understanding he had never felt before. Images flashed through his mind. Ancient battles, alien civilizations, and creatures with powers like his claws. He realized the energy was a repository of knowledge, a guide left by beings long gone. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes wide. "Rylan, this is incredible. But is it safe?" Rylan felt a twinge of fear. It gained so much power, yet every discovery carried risk. Keldrak was still out there, and his claws, though powerful, were not invincible. But for the first time, Rylan also felt hope. He could train, learn, and prepare, and maybe one day, he could challenge the warlord on equal footing. The voice whispered again, "You have begun your transformation. The path ahead is dangerous, but necessary. Choose wisely and the universe will bend to you." Rylan clenched his claws, feeling the hum of the planet's energy in his veins. He turned to Lyra. "We stay here for now. We learn, we grow. And then, we fight back." Outside, the glowing forest shimmered under the violet sky. Somewhere deep in the stars, Keldrak plotted. But Rylan no longer felt like the same human who had floated helplessly in space. He was something more, something the galaxy had not seen before, and the universe was about to take notice. Rylan spent his first night on the glowing planet in a strange state of awe and exhaustion. The energy of the planet pulsed softly through the crystal cave, humming like a heartbeat that matched his own. Lyra slept beside him, though her mind was restless, haunted by memories of Keldrak and the dangers they had fled. Rylan, however, could not sleep. His claws tingled constantly, almost alive, reacting to the ambient energy around him. The sphere of energy they had discovered earlier floated silently in the center of the cave, and he felt its pull. The voice spoke again, deeper, commanding, "You have power. But power without control is destruction. You must learn the trial, or fall, before it consumes you." Rylan exhaled slowly and stood. He approached the sphere. The moment his claws touched its surface, a surge of energy exploded through him. He stumbled backward, gasping, but the sphere held him, guiding his thoughts, connecting him with the planet itself. Suddenly, the cave shifted. Crystals rearranged themselves into a giant spiraling arena, walls glowing brighter, reflecting the energy of his claws. The planet itself seemed to test him. Lyra watched from a safe distance, eyes wide as she whispered, "What is happening?" "Trial," Rylan said quietly. "I think the planet is challenging me." From the shadows, a series of holographic figures appeared. They looked like dragons, massive, armored, with scales shimmering like molten crystal. They circled him, eyes glowing gold. Each figure represented an ancient warrior, one who had mastered the energy Rylan now possessed. Rylan's claws flared blue. He lunged instinctively, but the dragons did not attack. Instead, they moved as reflections of his own energy, mirroring his swings, his strikes, and his mistakes. Every misstep he made caused energy sparks to erupt, pushing him back violently. "This is a test of control, strength, and focus," the voice said. "You must master the claws, or they will master you." Rylan focused. He began to synchronize his movements with the flow of the arena's energy. Each slash and swing of his claws emitted a wave of blue light that danced in perfect rhythm with the crystal walls. The holographic dragons adjusted, testing him harder, faster, more aggressively. Lyra gasped. He's fighting them, like they're real. But Rylan knew they were real in energy, real in consequences. Every strike drained his stamina, tested his endurance, and forced him to understand the claws as part of his body, not just weapons. He could feel the power trying to overtake his mind, whispering for chaos, for destruction, but he resisted. Hours or maybe minutes, time had lost meaning past. Sweat and energy sparks covered his body, claws glowing brighter with each controlled strike. Then suddenly, the holographic dragons formed a tight circle around him, their eyes blazing gold. They lunged simultaneously. Rylan paused, centering. Himself, he realized that control didn't come from fighting harder. It came from trusting the energy, trusting himself. He extended his claws slowly, letting the blue light flow outward, harmonizing with the dragon's energy. The collision didn't explode violently. Instead, it merged, creating a radiant burst that filled the arena. When the light faded, the dragons were gone. The arena returned to its original crystal formation, calm and serene. Rylan's claws dimmed slightly, but the energy in them felt steadier, stronger, more alive than ever before. Lyra ran to him. "You did it. You passed the trial." Rylan looked at his claws, flexing them slowly. "I think I understand them a little more. But this is just the beginning." The voice spoke one last time before fading. "You have begun to master the claws. Soon you will face the one who destroyed your humanity. Prepare and do not fail." Rylan exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief, power, and determination. He had survived the trial, learned to control his abilities, and discovered that his claws were more than weapons, they were a connection to the universe. a tool to shape his destiny. Outside the cave, the glowing forest shimmered under the violet sky. Strange creatures moved in the distance, and the planet's energy pulsed gently, like it was watching, guiding, and waiting. Rylan knew that Keldrak would come for him again, stronger, smarter, and more furious. But he was no longer the man who had floated helplessly in space. He had claws now. He had power. And he had the courage to fight back. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. What happens next? Rylan clenched his claws, their tips glinting blue in the dim crystal light. We learn more. We grow stronger. And then, we end this. Keldrak won't get away next time. A wind stirred the glowing trees outside, carrying the faint hum of the planet's energy. Somewhere far in the galaxy, Keldrak's shadow moved closer, preparing for the inevitable clash. Rylan looked at Lyra. He wasn't just a survivor anymore, he was a storm waiting to strike. The universe had tested him and he had begun to rise. The glowing forests of the alien planet shimmered under the violet sky, but Rylan felt no peace. Every beat of his heart reminded him that Keldrak was still out there, hunting him, fueled by rage and destruction. Lyra had insisted they stay hidden, but Rylan knew the time for hiding was over. He had trained, mastered the claws, and discovered his new limits. The warlord would come, and he had to be ready. The ground trembled before he could speak. A massive shadow eclipsed the glowing trees. Keldrak's warship had landed on the planet, cutting through the mist like a knife. Energy spikes shot from its hull, searching, scanning, waiting. Rylan clenched his claws. They pulsed with blue energy, alive and ready. Lyra grabbed his arm. Rylan, be careful. Rylan nodded. I've waited for this. I can't hide anymore. Keldrak stepped out of the warship, massive in his energy armor, red light pulsing from every seam. His eyes burned with fury. You dare train while I hunt you? His voice echoed across the forest. This ends now. Rylan's claws flared. The energy from the planet resonated through him, amplifying his strength. He didn't hesitate. The first strike came, Keldrak swinging a massive energy mace at him. Rylan dodged effortlessly, claws slicing through the air with a blue streak. Sparks erupted where they met, shaking the ground. Keldrak roared, and the warship behind him unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. Rylan leaped, claws glowing, redirecting the energy back at the warlord. The blast shattered part of the ship, sending debris flying. Lyra shielded herself, eyes wide. You've grown stronger, Keldrak said, circling, but you are still human. Rylan shook his head. Not human anymore. He lunged, claws flashing, striking Keldrak's armor repeatedly. Sparks flew, but the armor held. Keldrak countered, energy spears shooting from his hands. Forcing Rylan to leap back, Rylan realized something critical. Brute force wasn't enough. His claws were powerful, yes, but they were also extensions of energy itself. He needed strategy, timing, and instinct. He felt the planet's energy beneath him, flowing through his claws, connecting him to the environment. The trees themselves began to respond. Energy vines erupted from the ground, wrapping around Keldrak's legs. Rocks levitated, striking his armor. The warlord stumbled but laughed. You think the planet can save you? Rylan gritted his teeth. No, I can. He leaped higher, claws glowing with a brighter blue than ever. The energy of the planet and his own mastery merged into a storm of power around him. Keldrak swung again, but Rylan dodged with uncanny speed, landing behind him. The first real clash was devastating. Claws against armor, energy against energy. The ground shattered beneath their feet, glowing fragments of crystal flying in all directions. Keldrak's armor cracked slightly, sparks shooting from the gaps. Rylan felt the surge's claws weren't just weapons, they were amplifiers of his will. Lyra shouted, Rylan, now. She activated a small device, sending a pulse through the planet's energy, guiding Ryland's focus. The storm of blue light around him intensified his claws, cutting through Keldrak's defenses like liquid fire. The warlord roared in anger and pain. Impossible. He fired a massive energy beam, one that could vaporize the trees, the forest, and everything in its path. But Ryland, feeling the planet's energy flow, split the beam with his claws, redirecting parts of it toward Keldrak's ship. Explosions lit up the violet sky as the warship began to crack. Keldrak staggered, enraged. This is not over. Ryland pressed his advantage, leaping high, spinning, and slashing with precision. Every strike landed with controlled force. His claws were no longer weapons. They were extensions of his mind, body, and the universe's energy. The warlord's armor melted under the blue energy, cracks glowing like molten lava. Finally, Keldrak fell to one knee, exhausted and bleeding energy. Ryland landed before him, claws raised, his aura pulsing. "It's over," he said calmly, voice steady. "You underestimated me." The warlord laughed faintly. "Perhaps. But the universe has many more surprises." His body glowed one last time, before he vanished in a burst of energy. Leaving behind fragments of his armor and a scorched battlefield, Ryland lowered his claws, breathing heavily. The planet's energy calmed, flowing gently through him. He looked at Lyra, who ran to him, relief and awe in her eyes. "You did it. You beat him." Ryland nodded, still feeling the energy hum in his veins. "This isn't the end," he said. "Keldrak will come back stronger, but now I am ready." The planet seemed to respond, glowing brighter as if acknowledging his growth. Ryland realized he had not just survived, he had become something more. A being of strength, strategy, and energy, ready to face whatever the universe threw at him. The stars above shimmered with possibilities, and somewhere, far in the galaxy, Keldrak's shadow still lingered, plotting, waiting for the next clash. But Ryland was no longer afraid. He was a storm, a predator, and a protector all at once, and the claws there blew glow, a warning promise that the universe would never forget his name. The violet skies above the glowing forest rippled as Keldrak's presence approached. Ryland and Lyra stood at the edge of the crystal cave, the energy of the planet humming through the air and into Ryland's claws. This was it, the final confrontation. Every battle, every trial had led to this moment. Lyra gripped Ryland's arm. "Are you ready?" Ryland flexed his claws, their blue glow brighter than ever. "I was born ready," he said. "This ends today." Far above, Keldrak descended, riding a stream of raw energy. His armor had been reforged, darker and deadlier, cracks glowing with molten fury. "You've grown stronger," he hissed. "But strength alone cannot defeat me." Ryland didn't answer. He could feel the energy of the planet flowing through him, resonating with the claws. He could sense Keldrak's every movement, every intention, almost before the warlord acted. He had mastered more than his claws. He had mastered the flow of energy itself. The battle began with a massive clash. Keldrak swung a spear of energy, crackling like lightning. Ryland leaped, claws flashing, deflecting the attack and sending shards of energy back toward the warlord. Sparks and energy arcs illuminated the forest, painting the violet sky with bursts of blue and red. Keldrak roared, firing a barrage of energy blasts. Ryland dodged with unnatural speed, the claws slicing through the projectiles midair. The planet responded, sending vines of energy to shield them and disrupt the warlord's attack patterns. "You've been trained by a planet," Keldrak spat, "but do you really understand your power?" Ryland's eyes glowed. "I understand enough." To finish this, with a sudden surge, he extended his claws toward the warlord, channeling all the energy he had learned to control. The blue light expanded outward, wrapping around Keldrak like a storm, pulling at him with invisible force. The warlord struggled, releasing a massive energy pulse that shook the forest. Trees bent, rocks shattered, and the ground itself cracked. Under the strain, Brylan held firm, claws glowing brighter with every second, energy flowing from his mind through his body. Into the universe itself, Lyra watched, breathless. He's controlling everything. The planet, the air, the energy. Keldrak screamed, trying to break free, but Ryland's control was absolute. He could feel the warlord's energy weakening under the constant pull of the claws. With a final decisive strike, Ryland lunged forward, claws piercing Keldrak's armor. Sparks erupted, energy arcs ripping through the warlord's body. No, this is impossible. Keldrak gasped, energy flickering and fading. Ryland's claws glowed one last time. Bright enough to illuminate the entire forest. You underestimated? Me, he said calmly, and now you pay the price. Keldrak's body cracked and exploded in a blinding flash of energy. When the light faded, only fragments of his armor and a scorched battlefield remained. The violet skies cleared slightly, and the planet's energy pulsed gently. As if acknowledging Ryland's victory, Lyra ran to Ryland, tears in her eyes. It's over. You did it. Ryland lowered his claws, energy flowing back into his body. Leaving them glowing faintly blue, he took a deep breath. For now, he said, but the galaxy is vast. There will always be threats, and we have to be ready. The planet seemed alive around them. Trees glowed softly, and small creatures emerged from the mist, unafraid. The crystal cave shimmered, the floating sphere of energy hovering peacefully. Ryland realized that this place had not only trained him, it had given him a new purpose. What happens next? Lyra asked, looking at him with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Ryland flexed his claws and smiled faintly. We learn, we grow, and we protect the universe. Was strong, but we are stronger together. The voice from before whispered one last time, calm and approving. You have mastered yourself. You have faced the storm. The universe awaits your actions, and you are ready. Ryland looked at the glowing forest, the violet skies, and the endless stars beyond. He was no longer just a human who had lost everything. He was a warrior, a protector, and a being of power beyond imagination. Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. You've changed, she said softly. Ryland nodded, claws still. Faintly glowing. Yes, and I will use this power for good. No one else will suffer like I did. Above them, distant stars sparkled, as if celebrating the victory. Somewhere in the galaxy, new adventures awaited and new threats would rise. But for now, Ryland and Lyra stood victorious, their bond stronger than ever, ready to face whatever came next. Ryland clenched his claws one final time, feeling the hum of the universe within him. The battle was over, but the story of the man with dragon claws who saved a princess and challenged the galaxy was just beginning. The glowing forest whispered around them, carrying the promise of new adventures, new enemies, and the hope that one warrior, one transformed human could truly make a difference. Ryland lifted his head, blue claws gleaming, eyes fierce and determined. The universe will remember this day, he said, and I will be ready for anything. The stars above twinkled, like 1,000 eyes watching, knowing that a new legend had been born.